Hey guys, Mr. King here. I know it's been quite a while since I got a chance to do anything fun with you, but here is a cool little drawing tutorial so you can make a neat volcano like I'm showing you right here. We're going to talk about basic shapes. We're going to talk about forms for probably one of the first times we got a chance to talk about that, and then we are going to draw it. So there's a couple tricks and tips to making this look really awesome, but you can see like my basic cartoon right here. I'll show you a quick replay of getting that drawn. And trust me, guys, I was making some mistakes as I was going through this, so you will too, and that is okay. So what you're going to need before we get started is to run over. You can pause the video right now, pause it. Well, actually, not right now, right after I tell you what you need. Pencil, some markers or colored pencils or crayon or colored pens or anything you can do to get some color, and some paper. Now, white is going to be a great color for your paper, but if you want to get like a brown paper bag to use, that'll also work pretty well, especially if you're using crayons or pastels. But really, you can use anything you want, but I encourage you to have a pencil and a black marker at the very least, or a black pen to go over your lines with. So guys, here is what we are going to do. We're going to make our awesome island volcano. And let me show you how. So first off, I'm going to get rid of the drawing that I have so far, and I'm going to start this over. And by the way, it won't look exactly the same because I am going to be redrawing it, but that's totally okay. And so the first thing we are going to do is we are going to actually make the shape of our volcano. Now for this part, I want you to draw really lightly. I'm using my computer here, but I'm going to scale back how dark my lines are so you guys can see. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a decent sized triangle in the middle of my paper. Okay, you guys see what's going on here? Now, if your triangle doesn't look perfect, you can go right ahead and erase a little of the extra lines that are coming off the edges here, but really you shouldn't have to worry about it. It's okay if it's not perfect. Now, the reason why we drew it really lightly like that is because we are going to go in heavier in a minute, and we are going to make this into a volcano. So first up, our volcano sides are not so perfectly smooth and not perfectly flat like they are right here. So when you redraw over these lines and drawing the edge of your volcano, go ahead and let it kind of bump along a little bit. And what I want you to do is stop before you get to the top of your triangle. Do the same thing down the other side, kind of a little bumpy line here. You can even go down a little bit below your triangle on one side or the other. That's totally okay. And then what I want you to do is you're going to make it look like the bottom of a tree trunk, kind of that weird lumpy pointed surface where the roots reach into the ground. And that's what the mountain is going to look like at the bottom, what the volcano is going to look like. So what we're going to do is we are going to kind of bump it up and down a little bit here at the bottom. And then connect it at the other end, and there we go. We got a really nice looking start of a volcano. And why I told you to leave the top undone is because here at the top, I'm also going to do that weird kind of bumpiness at the top too. And that's actually going to be where the top of the mountain, the volcano, was exploded off, and you're shooting lava and that explosion up into the sky. So now we need to bust out that eraser, and why I told you guys to draw lightly, because you're going to go in and you are going to erase those lines that you don't want. So I'm just going to kind of clean up the lines along my mountain here. And then I'm going to clean up the lines here near the bottom. And, if you erase a little too much, it's not hard to go back over your lines with a pencil. It's really not a big deal. So it's okay if you don't feel like you're getting your eraser to get into every little crevice. And if you can't erase or you just don't want to, it's actually okay to leave those really light pencil lines, because by the time we are done with marker or crayon or just adding shading with our pencil, you really won't notice those light pencil marks. And, so having just a little bit visible is okay. It's actually kind of cool. You can see that in a lot of artists' work. So anyways, this is my volcano. But you can't quite tell it's a volcano because it's not sitting on its little desert island or anywhere in particular. It's just floating in space. So we need to make the ground around it. And one thing I'll tell you is before we do that, why don't we make the palm trees? Because then there's just a little less erasing. So I'm going to put one palm tree on the left, one palm tree on the right, and one palm tree in the middle. So my one over here on the right side, I'm just going to make these two little, remember your palm tree's got to be really small. Make these two little lines, kind of looks like a little bent French fry on the side. I'm going to go to the other side. I'm going to do my little bent French fry over here, because palm trees have trunks that tend to bend. Okay? And then I'm going to put one in the middle. I'm going to have that one in the middle bending to the right, but you could have it bending to the left. But before I put it down, I'm going to erase that little place that it's going to overlap on my volcano. So I'm going to erase right here, right in the middle. And what I'm going to do is make my little bent French fry. It's going to bend a little to the right, And that is the trunk of my palm tree. You want to add a little something extra to it, you can do the little ribs that make up the little sections of the trunk by drawing little lines across it, like I'm going to do right here. But that's totally up to you. It makes it a little harder for me on the computer to color it in the end, but I'll do it anyways to show you. It looks a little, a little extra detail. Then the tops of the palm trees, those big palm ferns, you're just going to draw a wedge. And what this wedge is going to look like, it's going to look like a banana that's pointed. So we're going to draw these little tiny bananas that are pointed on the top. And I'm going to do 4 in each tree to make it look like there's a couple going each way. And so you guys notice that the palm leaves always have to bend down. And so an easy way to do that too is if you just want to draw the bottom part of the leaf, bending out like this, kind of like there's hair coming off, then you can do the other, well actually I'm doing the bottoms now, but you can do the other part of the other half of your leaf afterwards. So make sure they always bend down, because that will help it look really cool. And then there you go. You get your awesome palm trees. I got 3 palm trees around my volcano. And now the next steps are going to be adding some other details. Now, one of the big things is we got to put our volcano on that desert island. So what we're going to do is, this is the weird one. We are going to draw an oval with the top missing. And what I mean by that is at the very side of my volcano, I'm going to start drawing a line. And I'm going to have it stop and drop, go behind the palm tree. So I'm going to stop drawing and then redraw on the other side of it. And I'm going to start curving it, and it's going to be this really squished, thin oval. It's going to look like a pancake, and that is the best way. The art term for it is an ellipse. And you are going to bring it right back up to the other palm tree here, and then connect in behind, and that will make it look like your volcano is sitting on an island. It's really a pancake right now, but this will be our desert island. We add a little bit of color and some more details to it. So the other thing I like to do is add the ridges up on the side of my volcano that go right along with those little bumps in the bottom. It really does look like tree roots, so you can kind of do that any which way you want. But remember, the lines shouldn't be like perfectly straight, and it's okay if they are or they aren't, but it just really, I think, is nice that you don't have to worry about that very much. And then we got to make the ocean around our island. So what we're going to need to do is make flat lines going out from the side of our island about 3/4 the way up. I'm going to straighten that out. I'm going to bring it all the way out to the edge. I'm going to try to do that on the same spot on the other side. Again, if you've got to erase, that's really not a big deal. And there we go. There's my water. So you don't really need to add any other details. I know you might want to make some waves and stuff, and you can. What I would actually say is make the ripples of the waves coming in against the side of the island, and that will look fine on its own. If you really want to make it, like, add an extra detail, you can make or leave a little bit of white around that, and I'll show you what that looks like when we use the eraser later to do the color. But here's the next thing. We need the explosion. So what we're going to do is at the opening at the top of our volcano, we're going to do 2 lines going straight up on either side. And at the top of that, you are going to draw kind of a cloud bump. And that will end up looking kind of like the bottom of a tree sticking out of your mountain. It's okay. What's going to happen next is we're going to draw another cloud that goes all the way from off the page on the top around and kind of bumps into the middle of that tree trunk. And what that does is once we add a couple of lines for some movement, that becomes the explosion coming out of the top of the mountain. With a little bit of color, that will really be easy to tell what it is. Okay? So right now it doesn't look as good as it will when we add a little bit of color to it. All right? So we're almost there. Last details. Let's get some of that lava coming down the mountain, and we'll have what's called bombs, which are those exploding rocks that fly out the top as the mountain explodes. So for the bombs, all you got to do is just blacken in a couple circles going either side of your volcano. Maybe I'll do 3 just to make it kind of asymmetrical and fun. And you can add a couple flames on the back of that with some bumpy lines. Doesn't need to be very precise here because honestly, people aren't looking so much at these as they are your volcano. And then the other thing we got to do is we have to add the lava coming down the side of our mountain. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw these drips. And what that is about halfway down, you're going to draw a U on the side of your volcano. And you're going to bring the side of the U up higher than you think. and then you're going to come back down. You're going to make a really long U again. And the thing is that these U's always want to be pointing down the mountain. So try to have them follow kind of those lines of those ridges that you already made. And boom. We've got some awesome dripping lava coming down the side of our mountain. So adding color is going to make a really big difference to this. So we're going to add some orangish red here for our lava. It's going to take me a lot less time to color this than it will you guys with art materials you usually want to use. You know what? I'm going to change the explosion part to be a little bit lighter. So I'm going to make that kind of a yellow. Looks a little better that way. I'm going to make the flames in the side of my flying bombs up here, which are those flaming pieces of rock exploding from the mountain, in that same yellow. And then I'm going to choose a brown for the side of my mountain. Boom. And let's say a gray for the big ash cloud going up there. So here's a nice kind of brownish gray. Ooh, it's looking pretty good already. Now, what color do we need for the sand? Well, let's do a very light yellow. That's kind of a greenish yellow. Let's make it a little bit more orangey. Boom. And you can notice I have a couple spots to fill in over here on the edges. Again, it's so much easier in the computer, I know, because you're just telling it to fill in whole areas. But you don't have, like, honestly, coloring the stuff in is half the fun. So if you guys have art materials with you and you're coloring stuff in, don't be upset about that. That's honestly really good. I'd be doing that too, except it would just take forever to show you in the video, and that would, lead to a boring video. Nobody wants that. So I've got one treetop filled in with my green. I've got two here. And honestly, I would still say for the palm tree trunks, you could still use a yellow there. But if you want to mix it with like an orange or a little bit of brown to try to get like especially a light brown, and if you have colored pencils, that's a great one to mix with your marker. You can do that because if you get kind of an orangish brown here, a little bit different than your sand, just a little change and it will look like, oh yeah, that's totally the color of the tree trunk. So you guys can see when I made those little bumps on my tree trunks, it just made me have to fill in every one of these little squares, but that's okay. And I'm getting really close to done here. I have the water and I've got the sky left. And so I'm zooming in and zooming out just because it's easier for me to drop my color in. But that would be the same thing as you guys getting really close to your paper or further away. All right, so the water, let's make the water a darker blue. And then let's make the sky a nice light blue. And you can see there's my awesome exploding volcano on my island. Now, I told you if you wanted to make your waves look a little better, you can use a little bit of white. So what you could do is if you're using your marker or a colored pencil, you could just leave a little section right next to those lines right here, white. Or if you happen to have a really good eraser or a little bit of whiteout, to white out stuff on forums and things like that your parents might have kick around one of the desks, that works pretty well too. Because if you want to do the waves and you want to add the white here, it really does look, because when the waves crash and they mix with the oxygen in the air, makes lots of bubbles, and those bubbles turn white, and boom, that looks more like waves, right? Cool. So there is our awesome drawing. I hope you guys did a good job. What you can see, here's drawing number 1. Here's drawing number 2, and they're really similar, but there's changes always because we're going to make mistakes. We're going to make little decisions that are different. And honestly, I think your drawings will be better for it. If you have problems, back up the video, watch part of it again. Feel free to make changes to it. Maybe you just don't like the way that I do that big cloud up above, and that is totally okay. So, experiment, have some fun with it. The fun thing about doing the volcano on the desert island is because you can really change everything around. It doesn't need to be on a desert island. It could be on, a mountaintop. It could be Mount St. Helens exploding. You could have, trees on the side of your mountain getting burned up by the lava a little bit. Or you could have the bombs hitting and making explosions on the ground like a comet hitting. Or actually, there would be a meteor hitting. So anyways, enjoy it, have fun, be creative, make as many mistakes as you can, and keep working through them because that will make you a better artist. All right, guys? I will talk to you soon in another video, and I'm going to try to release a lot more of these coming up because I'm finally getting myself a little bit of good work time in here, and we will see each other again soon. Bye-bye.